Hey everyone, welcome back to JP's Budget Collecting and another episode of Let's Collect. Today, let's collect Black Canary. So today, we're going to be collecting Black Canary. All the key comics, all the big storylines, all the fun covers. This is your one-stop guide to collecting Black Canary as a character. Now, a little history at the beginning. Black Canary has a little bit of a convoluted history um, that is fairly typical, probably for comics. But there's actually been at least 3 versions in the comics, not counting like Elseworld versions and that kind of stuff. The first was Dinah Drake Lance, who with Lance was her married name, originally Dinah Drake, who was introduced in the Golden Age. That was basically the version of the Black Canary as far as anyone knew up until the early 80s. Then they kind of retconned that she'd been replaced somewhere along the line with her daughter, Dinah Laurel Lance. And that was kind of the second Black Canary. And they basically retconned it that all the stories since the Silver Age were actually the daughter and not the mother. And the mother was just a Golden Age Black Canary. Since then, that's pretty much been the way things stayed until we got to the New 52. And then we went back to Dinah Drake Lance. Although she kept some of the characteristics of Dinah Laurel Lance version of the daughter version. So kind of a third version of Black Canary. As far as I know, that is still kind of the current version in Rebirth. However, they're really not very clear. I tried to look to make sure that was the case, and I haven't. Basically, she's just going by Dinah Lance. I haven't found anything, at least written. Obviously, I haven't read all the stories. Green Arrow is not a character I follow, which is where she's made most of her appearances. And I haven't read all the Rebirth, Batgirl, and the Birds of Prey. So I'm not 100% positive it's still the Rebirth version and not the daughter back, because they have made a few changes in Rebirth to her character. So at least 3 versions, maybe 4, but all of them very similar. Great fighter, similar costumes all throughout time, and obviously the Canary Cry, which is kind of her calling card as a character. So with that, we're going to kind of run down the keys for all these versions, and the key stories. So let's get into it. First, let's talk about the keys. Black Canary is, if you want some of her very first appearances, first keys, you're basically going to have, they are Golden Age books, which means they are pretty penny. Her first appearance was in Flash Comics number 86 in 1947. She's one of the earliest kind of female DC heroes, a ways after Wonder Woman, but one of the first ones other than Wonder Woman. And she basically, her first appearance is going to cost you several grand. Currently, there's a 1.5 listed on eBay for $5,600. That's a little high for 1.5, but there's not a lot of sales of this book. Even on Heritage and that kind of stuff, because it is a Golden Age book, there's just not a ton of them out there. I think most recent sales for around that grade are more in the $2 to $3 grand range, from what I could find, but still, a 1.5 or a couple of grand gets you how hard this book is to get and how rare it is as a Golden Age book. So that was her first appearance. For me, if you were collecting Black Canary, your grail would not necessarily be that book. I think your grail would be Flash Comics number 92. This has her first solo story in it, and it also has her first cover appearance. This is another book, Golden Age book, that's going to cost you several grand to get into. Recent sales this year had a 3.5 going for $3,000, a 5.5 going for $3,400. And that was just a month or two ago, so that's a fairly recent auction on Heritage where it went for $3,400 for a 5.5, which is not horrendous, I guess. Way beyond my budget, but not, completely crazy. There is currently one listed on eBay at 1.0 for $5,100. Wouldn't pay that, but definitely another book that was going to cost you a lot to get into. But if you were going to chip out that much money for a early Black Canary book, I would probably go for this one over that 86, just because of the cover, and it's her first story. But that's just me. So third book, kind of on our big keys list, is All-Star Comics number 41. And this is the issue where she joins the Justice Society of America. This book is a little more reasonable. 5.5s, basically, in that range. You're going for around $600 this year. Still a Golden Age book. Still fairly tough to get. But a little more reasonable. You can get mid-grades for definitely under $1,000. And, in that 5 range for around $500. So, a book that's a little more attainable than those first two. But still a book that's going to cost you a pretty penny to get into. Next is Justice League number 75, and this is the first appearance and origin of the second Black Canary, the daughter. This is kind of when it's revealed that it is Diana Laurel Lance and not the original. This is a book that is very easy to get into in comparison to the Golden Age Black Canary. Raw books for this can easily be had for under $100. Anywhere from 30 to 80, depending on condition, that kind of thing. 7.0 goes for under $200 or around $200 or under. So this is a book that is definitely much more attainable and is the first appearance of kind of the modern version, at least up to the New 52, of the Black Canary. And then number 5 on our list is kind of the first appearance of the team that's, even though she's been a member of the Justice Society and the Justice League, maybe the team she's currently most known for being part of, which is the Birds of Prey. This is Black Canary, Oracle. Birds of Prey number 1. This is the first time her and Oracle team up. This is a 9.8 for this book, runs you between $250 and $350, and raws are going for around $50. So another fairly attainable key first for this character, and probably her most famous team in terms of her contribution to it. And with the movie coming, this is obviously the book that has spiked a couple times related to movie news. Right now it's going for kind of it's settled back down a little bit. It was up around $100 when some of the first announcements were made about the movie. It's dropped back down to 50. I know a trailer supposedly is going to come out anytime, so it might be, if you don't pick it up immediately, it might be wise to wait. Trailer may actually drop between when I record this and when it actually goes live. So, but that is Black Canary and Oracle, Birds of Prey number 1. Our next kind of group of books, so we got 10 kind of key books that we're going through. At number 6, we have All-Star Comics number 38. And this is when she meets the Justice Society. So 41 is when she joins. 38 is her first meeting with the Justice Society. This is another book. Raw copies are another Golden Age book that raw copies are going to cost you between $200 and $300 from what I could find. But a 5.0 can be attained for $300 to $400. So you can get a good mid-grade for a fairly reasonable, depending on your definition of reasonable price. And you can definitely get a low grade and a pretty reasonable price on this particular book. Next is Justice League of America, number 21. And this is her first meeting with Green Arrow. And if you know anything about her history, at least, so when it was first written, it was still being written as though it was the mother and she was older. And then later when they retconned it, she became younger than Green Arrow. But they've basically been in a romance pretty much since they've been introduced to each other, off and on at least. And so raw copies of this book are $30 to $50. with a mid-grade slab costing around 200, so like a 5 will cost you around 200, and that is Justice League of America number 21, the first time she meets Green Arrow. Number 8 on our list is Justice League of America 220, and this is kind of the new origin and kind of the explanation of After Crisis, where they kind of explain the whole deal with the mother and daughter and how that came to be, and when they kind of retroactively made the Silver Age the daughter. And this is basically a $2 book, and this is really the origin that lasted all the way up to the New 52. And number 9 on our list is Justice League of America number 74. And this is, so 75 was kind of the revelation that it was a second Black Canary that was Dinah Laurel Lance. Well, 74 was the death of her mother, the original Black Canary. And that is a $20 to $30 book. So a little cheaper than the 75, but still a reasonable book to get into if you're interested in this particular character. And finally, at number 10 on our list is Birds of Prey number 1. And that is the one comic book kind of on our list that I actually have a copy of. And this is basically a $10 to $20 book. And this is the first time, the first ongoing Birds of Prey series. And this is the number 1 in that series. So that is kind of our 10 bigger keys. Now 5 more fun books. I like to give a few more fun books that are kind of keys that are super reasonable to get into that you might be interested in if you're collecting kind of a Black Canary completionist. First is Black Canary number 1, her first solo title from 1991. So she was introduced in 47, but it took till 91 for her to have a true solo title. This was just a 4-issue miniseries. And this number 1 is a $5 to $10 book. Next is Birds of Prey number 1 from volume 3, which is the New 52. And this is the first appearance of the rebooted Black Canary, Dinah Drake Lance, and the New 52. So kind of the third version. Makes her first appearance in this book, and this is also a $5 to $10 book. Next in our kind of cheaper keys is Showcase number 96. Showcase 96 number 3, excuse me. And this is kind of the first proto Birds of Prey. It's actually Black Canary and Lois Lane. It's not got Oracle in it, but they consider this kind of a prototype of what would be the the Birds of Prey kind of team up thing. And this is basically a $20 book. And really nice grades raw. So, finally, I have 2 other books that are a little bit unsure about. I had a lot of trouble getting specific information on Black Canary, I'll be perfectly honest. The first is Green Arrow, Black Canary, Wedding Special number 1. This is a $5 to $10 book. And this is where they get married, only they don't. And what I mean by that is basically they get married, but it turns out that it's not really Green Arrow. And there's actually a whole series that follows of Green Arrow, Black Canary, where she has to go looking for him, the real him, and ultimately they do get married, but I couldn't find anywhere what issue of the Green Arrow, Black Canary series that was. I think it's issue 2 maybe, or 3, but it wasn't clear and I couldn't find it. But so this is kind of the wedding issue. So still a fun one to have if you're a Black Canary completionist. Next is Green Arrow Rebirth number 1. And this is basically the first appearance of the current version of Black Canary in Rebirth. Like I said, I don't know. It's not clear if she's different than kind of the New 52 version. She's a little bit different. The New 52 version and Batgirl did not get along at all. They were not friends. The current version is friends with Batgirl, kind of like from the Birds of Prey days. So there's definitely some changes there. The New 52 version was not involved at all with Green Arrow. This one obviously is. So I don't know if it's more daughter than, but I think she's still going by, well, she's going by Dinah Lance. I don't know if there's a Laurel or a Drake in the middle. Just couldn't ever get any clarification on that. And finally, there's another book that's out there from the 2006 Justice League of America series. During that early part of that series, she is actually elected chairperson of the Justice League. Unfortunately, I can find lots of references to that in her storylines, but nowhere did it list which issue it is that they actually elect her as chairperson. So the early part of that 2006 run, it's there. If you know which issue it is, please drop it in the comments, because I could not find it online. And so other people, if they're looking to be a Black Canary completionist, can find that the first time she's chosen as leader of the Justice League. And that is from the 2006 series. Okay, with that, we've kind of covered the keys, kind of beat them to death. Let's move on to storylines for Black Canary, and I actually have 6 that I've picked out that I'm going to run through. First is Justice League of America Year 1, or JLA Year 1. While it doesn't quite stand up to the high standards of like Batman Year 1 or something like that, it is a fun kind of Year 1 story. It kind of tells the Justice League where Black Canary is one of the founding members, along with Green Lantern, Flash, Martian Manhunter, and Aquaman, maybe? I don't know. I can't remember now. There's like 5 of them, I think, instead of 7. But anyway, she is one of the founding members. It's a fun story. It has a lot of fun interactions with her. She's kind of the heart of that founding of that team. And she has a lot of fun interactions with the other characters. Definitely a story worth your read. Next up is Black Canary and Zatanna, Bloodspell. And this was written by Paul Dini, and this was a kind of mini-series that you can get as a trade now. Just a lot of fun with these 2 characters. If you have any interest in either one of these, this is definitely a story you want to read. So that is Black Canary and Zatanna, Bloodspell. And number 4 on our stories list is Black Canary, Kicking and Screaming, and this is actually the launch of her individual series, I think in 2015. During the New 52, she got her own series for a while. She's basically on the road. She's the singer in a band. Has kind of given up hero life, but this is just kind of a fun story. It got lots of high recommends. This is a character I haven't read a ton of, but this is one that came highly recommended everywhere I looked for Black Canary stories. So that is Black Canary, Kicking and Screaming. And number 3, we have Birds of Prey from Volume 2, The Death of Oracle. And this is considered this was a Gail Simone run, revisit to Birds of Prey from her original visit. And this is considered one of the classic stories. If you know any Black Canary history, she's part of a Green Arrow longbow hunter story where she basically is abused and loses her ability to use the canary cry for a while. Everything back in the 80s. This kind of deals with her overcoming some of that trauma, those old events, moving past them, and basically triumphing over trauma and pain and anguish and that kind of stuff. It's a really good story. You should definitely read it. Next, at number 2 on my list, is that Green Arrow Black Canary wedding album. This is just a fun story about their relationship and them getting married. A lot of fun, a lot of humor in this one, so definitely worth checking out. And finally, number 1 on my list is Birds of Prey of Like Minds, and this is the original Gail Simone run on Black Canary. If you need any more evidence of why you should read this if you're a Black Canary fan, she basically is kicking ass with 2 broken legs and 2 broken thumbs, and it doesn't seem to stop her. So definitely worth your read if you're interested in Black Canary. So with that, let's move on to covers. And I'll be perfectly honest, I didn't find a lot of what I would consider iconic Black Canary covers, but I did find some fun ones that you might want to pick up. A few of them that have some value, although not a ton. First up is Birds of Prey number 56, and this is an Ed Bennis cover. And just kind of, there's a series of these when he and Gail Simone first took over Birds of Prey. And this is the one focused solely on Black Canary. Just, she's ready to fight. Just a really good and attractive cover. Next is Birds of Prey number 8. This is a fun art germ cover. Her kind of front and center on the Birds of Prey. That first, the 59 was like a $10 to $15 book if you're looking for Ed. This is like a $5 to $10 book. So pretty cheap, pretty easy to get. And if you like art germ, just kind of a nice art germ cover. Next is Green Arrow number 40. And this is a Marcos Martin cover. This is a $5 cover, but this is just a really cool image. A cover I really liked when I seen it. I saw it on some other lists of great Black Canary covers, and this is just, not super familiar with Marcos Martin's work until recently. It seems like he's been popping up everywhere. I know Whitewell's a big fan, but this is a cover that definitely I enjoy and like a lot. Next is Justice League of America number 26, and this is the B cover, a Matina cover. This is another $5 cover, or cover price cover, and just showing the power of the Canary Cry as she's letting Batman have it. And just, I think a really nice Matina cover if you're interested in collecting that kind of thing. Next is Batgirl and the Birds of Prey number 9. This is from Rebirth, a fairly recent cover. And just, she's standing on a pile of dudes she's already whooped, and she's getting ready to let out a Canary Cry on somebody else. Just looking strong and powerful, and just a really cool cover in my opinion. Next we have Green Arrow number 43, and this is the Bombshell variant. I'm a little bit of a sucker for these Bombshell designs. This is by Aunt Lucia, and it's a $5 to $10 cover, but just kind of a fun throwback cover for Black Canary in my opinion. 2 more to go, and then we'll wrap this up. We have Green Arrow and Black Canary number 1. And like I said, this is kind of that fallout of after the wedding where she's actually looking for him. And just her using his shoulder to kind of launch herself to kick somebody in the face is my expectation. I just think it's a fun cover. So that is that. Green Arrow and Black Canary number 1. And finally, probably what's become in many ways the most iconic cover, even though it's fairly recent, is Justice League of America number 6, and it's from that 2006 run. The B Adam Hughes cover. Adam Hughes, Black Canary, that's a nice combination. She's never really had a run with, one of the great cover artists that we see doing just strictly Canary covers. Hopefully someday we'll maybe get that, but this is a really nice one, and this is basically probably the most expensive cover of the group, and it's probably about a $20 cover raw. So that is our breakdown of Black Canary. If there's anything you think I missed, any stories I failed to mention, any covers that are your favorites, or keys that I forgot about, let me know down in the comments, and so everyone else can see, can get a more complete guide to Black Canary. Once again, thanks for watching, and we'll catch you next time.